Welcome to 10,000 Tacos, everyone. This is a show about the taco life. Each week, we bring you conversations and perspectives connected to the tortilla culture. We tell you about taqueros, molineros, tamaleros, as well as scholars and journalists who help us understand and see Mexican food beyond the plate. I am Isidro Salas, along with Jose Ralat.
Not many people know that my degree is in creative writing, specifically poetry and literary theory. After college, I jumped into the spoken word scene and poetry slams. Although I did ultimately move away from poetry and into food writing, my love for the literary form continues, especially when it involves la cultura. This week's guest infuses culture, food, which is culture, and Spanglish in inspiring ways. His work has appeared in chapbooks, anthologies, and the streets of San Antonio. That would be San Antonio, Texas. He's traveled the country to perform his work, including most recently Louisville, Kentucky, where he won a competition about haikus. He is the host of the Sunday open mic at the Dakota Ice House in San Antonio. He's also a native of Texas's Rio Grande Valley, the only valley that matters. He's a high school teacher and a co-founder of the International Taco Council. He's also a very good sport when it comes to criss-crossing San Anto for tacos. Allow me to introduce Eddie Vega.
Hola.
So, Eddie, welcome to the show, man. But before we get started, we have a very, very important question to ask you. And depending on how you answer it, it depends how long the show will go. So,
Okay.
Be careful.
All right.
Is a burrito a taco?
Oh, shit. Man.
5 seconds.
And, here's the thing is I'm going to say yes. And no.
Thanks for coming out, everyone. Please follow us on social media.
Good night.
No, Eddie is right. Eddie is right.
Because, here's my reasoning. It's probably not very good reasoning. The burrito was featured on the second season of the Taco Chronicles. And if it's in the Taco Chronicles, it's got to be a taco.
That's right.
I can't argue against that, but you're wrong.
You can. So, Eddie, thank you for that personal validation. I really welcome it. Yeah, it means a lot to me. I know poetry means a lot to you. How and why did you get into it, man?
How did I get into poetry? I've been writing for a long time. I used to write poems to my mom for Mother's Day because I didn't have any money to buy her anything, so I could steal some flowers from the neighbors, and then put little lines in there of why I appreciated her. And I wrote a little bit in high school and stuff, but it was in a closet because poets in high school aren't really looked with great favor upon in the world. Wrote through college, but I really got into it about 10 years ago with some personal struggles and whatnot. I was writing, and then I got into open mics, eventually got into slam, and got published in books, published my own book. So that's how I guess I got into it. It's just poetry is a reaction to the world. It's how are you navigating the world and how are you reacting to it? How are you helping others to find their words for it too, to react into the world.
Thanks. Your poems are often grounded in Latino culture as well as Tejano foods. Were they always deeply set in your work?
The food and stuff? I think so, man. Like you said earlier, food is culture. And, my 7th grade teacher or 8th grade teacher told us that writers write best about what they know. And so I write about food. no food. I know my culture. I experience my culture, and you can't take out the food from the culture. So that's why they call me the taco poet, because I had poems about tacos, you know. And I guess from there, you talk about, because it's not just, if I'm writing a poem about a taco, it usually isn't just about the taco. It's about the experience of having the taco and with the people that you're having it with, and with the people that maybe aren't there. It's about the ingredients and the smells and the aromas and family, and everything is in there. All the occasion about the food and the taco or whatever the food is. I have poems about carne guisada, my mother's carne guisada, because I think it's the best carne guisada on earth. I have poems about chipotle, who said, they had a billboard that said cuisine de your hood, that I saw on the highway once, and I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
That sounds awful.
Yeah.
See,
I'm like, you don't know me.
Yeah.
You don't know me, dog.
Well, I'm glad that you're on here, because a few weeks back we had Jason Stanford from the Austin scene. He was the former communications director, I think.
Yes.
And he talked about the taco war, right, of 2016, and how Austin and San Antonio got into this spat, right, about the breakfast taco. But there was something in that conversation where, and he admitted he did not know, and that the writer of Eater, who wrote this article that got this whole thing, kind of on a different stratosphere, that from what I remember of the conversation, it was that, San Antonios take their stuff seriously, like Tejanos do, but they were, they're very sensitive. And then we got into the conversation around how the reason why San Antonio got offended, it isn't just because of the breakfast taco. It was just this article managed to sort of insult and just get, to bypass what San Antonio's gone through, right? It sounds like when you write about the culture of the food, you're talking about those very things in our veins that other people can't understand and dismiss. And the example you gave about Chipotle, like, they have no clue. They just put it on a billboard and think, oh, it'll sell.
Yeah, exactly. That's the most offensive part of it. It's like, in my bio, I say I read about Tejano, food, Tejano culture, social justice, and the intersections thereof. And really, all of it is an intersection. Talking about our food and the way that our food is used, food is abused, our food is taken, appropriated or whatever. That's a justice issue, because sometimes that's where it starts, and then it moves on to bigger and bigger things.
So then why is it really important to represent La Raza? Because there are as many opinions about the food and the culture as there are people from that culture.
Yeah. I'm pretty specific, I think. I say I promote Tejano culture. I consider myself a Tejano. In a broader sense, you could say it's Latinx, you could say it's Chicano or Mexican American, and that's really it's a much broader context. I'm going to be specific. I'm representing my cultura, my valley upbringing, my San Antonio lifestyle. That's what I can know about. I can't know about the others. I can know about them, but I can't know them in the same way that I know this one. And I think it's important to express that to others, for yourself, but to others, so that they can know who they are and they can write their poem, they can write their writing and understand their particular culture a little bit better. Like, oh yeah, that's kind of like mine, but a little bit different. Let me tell you how mine is different and why that's important to me.
Do the sidewalk calls of taqueros count as poetic performance?
Oh, for sure. I think so.
It's such an awesome question.
If I could use, some of that stuff in my writing to recall something. I have a short poem that was put on the bus, and it was written because I was standing in line at the taco truck and just listening to the sounds. The biggest sound is the percussion of the spatula, that ta 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 ta, right? And then there's like the sizzling of the meat and stuff on the grill, and I'm trying to invoke that. And the fact that we're all together standing in line at this truck, and there's people of all walks of life at this taco truck, because it's a late night in San Antonio. So you got people coming out of the club, you got people coming back from a party, you got people that just woke up late and they're like, I'm gonna go have the tacos. All of that is part of the culture, and all those sounds, and even just and it's like music, you know, right? To hear when they say salsa verde or roja, you know, there's like a rhythm to it. If there's dos tacos, tres tacos, una quesadilla de asada, all of that, and just the way it rolls off the tongue, because sometimes they're going back between English and Spanish. All of that's poetry. All of that's beautiful, and my job is to report it and record it for other people to hear.
You mentioned the Taco Chronicles early on the episode, and there's this one episode where they're talking to the cuñados or the God, what's the name of that taqueria? They're of course
later. Mexico City.
Yeah,
I know that. Yeah, I remember that.
In it, it's at night, and they talk shit between each other.
Yeah.
And then the patrons, or us, we get involved. There's something magical about the way la gente talks shit to one another, right? You can't do it to anybody else, right? But there's some special stuff, the words that they use, the phrases. It becomes a show.
They have a whole bunch of innuendo that I'm like, okay, I don't know if I can go that far.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And I got to
somehow.
Yeah, I got to experience that as a kid because we were out selling at that time. And as I got older, I remember hearing the phrase, nothing good ever happens after 10 o'clock, right? And I understand that now as an
2
adult.
2 o'clock. That's my...
Right. But I understand that. I never got it because I'm like, well, we sold tacos at 2 a.m. and things were really good. And I never got it until I got older, and it was way past the taco truck days that I'm like, yeah, nothing really good happens except for tacos at that time of the night.
I was in Fayetteville, North Carolina. We were at a poetry slam there, but we're hanging out, and it got to about 10 o'clock. And we were hungry. Let's go get a taco. And we looked up taco trucks, and we found a taco truck that closed at 10. Oh. And I'm like, I know a taco truck in San Antonio doesn't open until 10. But yeah, things happen. Great things. Sometimes dangerous things happen after 10. Sometimes great things happen after 10.
So, do you have a poem for us?
I have several. But that Chipotle one, I haven't done this poem in a while, and it kind of came to mind when we were talking.
Yeah.
So let's do this Chipotle one.
Sounds awesome.
The Chipotle billboard said, cuisine de your hood. So I pulled off the highway and found the nearest restaurant, walked in right behind Mason and Margaret in their matching Crocs, and I looked for a screen porch or barefoot kids running around, cars up on blocks, and that stray dog that nobody claims but everybody feeds. I looked for my abuelita, and I saw nothing but a white countertop. Chipotle, fuck you. You don't know me. You don't know my hood, because my hood was a barrio, and in my barrio, no one ever used the word cuisine. If I'd ever said that word, they would have said, ¿Qué? ¿Qué es eso? Niño cochino. In my barrio, we stood in line for cheese, and your Monterey Jack doesn't hold a Sacred Heart of Mano Ginobili candle to that cheddar. In my barrio, we used food stamps to buy the essentials, but everything else, we bought with coupons. You see, we didn't eat like royalty, but when my mother put a plate in front of me, I felt like a prince. In my barrio, we ate fresh flour tortillas with butter, or fresh corn tortillas with salt. A slice of bologna warmed on the comal thrown into a tortilla of any kind. Macaroni and cheese with weenies chopped up and thrown in there. Spam con huevo, fideo from the yellow box, hamburger helper, chicken helper, or if it was Lent, tuna helper. You've got bowls, burritos, and tacos. Well, our bowls were for burritos, our bowls were charro beans and menudo. Our burritos were deep fried and found under a heat lamp at 7-Eleven. And our tacos were anything we could put into a tortilla. Chipotle, just because you serve stuff in tortillas doesn't mean that you know what I ate in my hood. Having carnitas on your menu doesn't mean you're authentic. And honestly, we never put chicken or steak on a bed of romaine lettuce. I didn't know what romaine lettuce was until college. A chipotle is a smoke-dried jalapeno pepper, and I didn't see or smell that anywhere on your menu until you catered to the vegan crowd. Sofritas, a mix of vegetables, tofu, and chipotle peppers. It wasn't enough to offend the Mexicans. Now you done pissed off Puerto Ricans and Dominicans too. If you're going to appropriate our culture, why not take the diabetes and teenage pregnancy rates? Hell, you can have all those Latinos that watch Fox News and voted for Trump. Chipotle, I'm sorry. I know I sound harsh. Yes, I might still visit y'all, but not because of any sort of nostalgia or sense of authenticity. I'll go because I'm hungry. I kinda like the burritos. And my mama sent me a coupon.
Wow. There's so much in there, man. But you took us on a tour, man. You really did. You took us on a tour that exemplifies why we get upset at, the chains who basically rip off the culture. And when I was hearing that, I kept thinking about the people who have always told me, why do you get upset? They're the food is crap. And it's much more than that. And for me, you hit it with the chipotle is because to me, it's a sacred chile. But that's just one part of your poem, man. That was great, man.
Thank you.
At the recent Tacos y Más festival, there was a special debate about San Antonio versus Austin tacos. It's no surprise that the San Antonio team, which you were a part of, won by thunderous applause, I should say. How'd you get involved?
It's funny because I was going to perform there as a poet, and it was part of a group of other poets. And one of them says, hey, I gave them your name, and they said you can't perform because you're already doing that other thing. And I'm like, what other thing? Says, yeah, you're doing a discussion or something. I don't know. So then I remembered a conversation that I'd had like months before about the same festival, where a friend of mine said, yeah, we're not going to forget you for that taco fest. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm like, so I reached out to him. I'm like, hey, am I doing something? Like, what are you talking about? And then he didn't reach out. Somebody else reached out, and they said, oh, you're on the debate team for San Antonio versus Austin in the taco debate. I'm like, well, okay, that's cool, I guess. And it ended up being myself, Johnny Hernandez, the chef, Johnny Hernandez of La Gloria and other fruteria and other restaurants, and Amalia Ortiz. And Amalia Ortiz she's a local poet, but she's also she's been on Def Jam Poetry, and she's been around the world with poetry, and she's also a punk artist. So yeah, I'm like, I ended up on this team. We all met at one of Johnny's restaurants to plat out our strategy because we were serious about it. We were serious about who we're going up against and what they might bring at us and what we thought made our tacos better. And it was a lot of planning to it. I don't know. I'm not sure if the other team had the same, that they met and planned like we did.
It doesn't look like it.
And that tells you a lot. We take it seriously because this is what Desiro said. There's some of when people say insulting things or say that we're not important in the taco scene, that really hurts us because it's like, here we are again, where they're forgetting us or they're leaving us out. We did something well, or we do something well, and nobody cares. Nobody, keep getting ignored. Like, oh, we're not going to be ignored. We're not going to take that sitting down.
I want you to say something nice about Team Austin.
Something nice about Team Austin. They do care about their scene, and they offer different perspective. And it's maybe one that needs to be appreciated in its own little place, I guess. I guess that's one thing I could say that was nice about them. They were cordial, right? I don't know that we were as cordial.
No, you weren't. You were brutal. It was a bloodbath. It was a bloodbath. It was just, and they admitted defeat, but I think it's important for you to say something nice.
Sure. Was that not nice, or did I say nice?
No, that was nice.
Oh, okay, good.
Okay.
That was brutal.
All right. What's funny is that some of what we don't appreciate as much in San Antonio, because I see the fight is over what more can you do with tacos versus what is a little bit more traditional, I guess. And what we don't appreciate in San Antonio is the not so traditional. And the very first thing that the Austin team was saying was about vegan options and sustainability and all those kind of like very Austin type words. And we all looked at each other and we're like, that's exactly what we're going to say against you. Like, what are you talking about? So anyway, that was funny.
I wanted to ask about how words and tacos, they're the same in that they're changing. right? Some of the words that you know that we use 30 years ago may have a different meaning. But the weird part about that, of course, a taco is thousands of years old and words are thousands of years old. Is there a challenge to try to preserve some and then at the same time go with the flow of changes?
About preservation of words, I guess you're saying? Yeah. Language is in a flux. Language is changing and evolving all the time. And I think that's important to notice and to be aware of. The only way you can figure that out is you're like talking to people on the street. You're listening to the music that's going out there, reading current articles and whatnot, so you can get a feel for that language. But if you're going to communicate in 2022, you've got to understand that sometimes your words don't mean what they meant in 1982 or 1992. And we have to do that. One of my favorite programs on NPR is Away with Words. And it's all about language. And one of the things that I learned from them is exactly that. Because I used to be this person that was traditionalist about my language. Like, oh, no, that word only means this. And that's it. And then I started seeing like, no, not only does it not mean that right now, it doesn't even mean that right here, or over there. And we're in another part of the country, another part of the world, that phrase is something totally different. And I think we have to recognize that.
But there are exceptions, though. And this is where I was getting to. You're right that we have to be aware that words are changing, words are moving. But let's take the word guac. And it made it to the fucking dictionary.
Oh, my God.
That word is awful, yet it's so used like it's normal. When you try and say something against it, you're the bad guy. Not that I care that I'm the bad guy, but that's one word. I can't use it. I think it's an offensive word. And I know that's way out in the blue, but guac is a fucking word that needs to be eviscerated. It needs to go. It needs to go away.
Yeah.
Because it's offensive to guacamole.
I understand your point, but it also, when it's used, a lot more about the person who's using it. The word is kind of like a bellwether, right? You and I wouldn't use that word because we know it. But when you hear somebody else, it's like, oh, now I know something about you. I know where you're coming from. You're gonna maybe I don't know. Maybe that sounds a little judgy.
I've heard people in Mexico use that word, and that doesn't surprise me.
¿De veras?
Yeah, I've heard because I don't know if this word originated in. This is a separate word, but the word party. In Mexico, they use the word party, right? Is that an original word to Mexico? I don't think so, right?
No.
And so I think guac has become that, like, it goes under the radar so much that I've heard people in Mexico use it, like, loosely. And like Patty Hinich, she had been on one of these chats, and she, I hadn't even thought about it until she said this, that, well, why did they use that word? Guac is the expression we use when we want to throw up, like, bleh, right? Guac, guacala.
Yeah. Wakala, yeah.
Right, and so you're seeing these two words converge, and I hope one doesn't.
One of my good poet friends, the officiant at my wedding was a poet named Anthony Flores, and he has a whole poem that you would totally appreciate because it actually says, I wanted guacamole in my taco, not guacamole, not waka, not guac, not gua. And but he's going after more of the fact that, like, when you ask for guacamole in your taco, like, they give you like a little bit. He's like, no, I want guacamole, not waka. I want the whole thing.
Because it's extra, like our wives. What? Was it something I said?
No, not at all.
But I don't know. That's an interesting crusade. I mean, the tide is so strong on the guac. It's going to be hard for us. Just like I know that you don't appreciate chicken fajita. Because that's not a thing.
Shut your mouth, boy.
That's a lost battle already. We've already lost that. We've already lost that.
Saying.
Yeah.
People, they right, exactly. They don't get it, but it's too late now.
At the top of the show, we mentioned that your poetry can be found on the streets of San Antonio. Mm-hmm. Where can they be found?
There's I don't know if mural is the right word, but like there's a window right behind City Hall on this city building, and there are two poems that are illustrated. They're like graphically displayed, And both those poems, one of them is mine, but both those poems were part of the tricentennial project from San Antonio. We had for the city's 300th anniversary. One of the events was they issued a poetry book, and there was a contest, and you could enter the contest in like different categories, like of history of San Antonio. There was like a pre-Columbian, not a pre-Columbian, yeah, like prehistoric, pre-Columbian. There was the era in Texas history where we got about the revolution, when we got statehood, etc., and then like modern times. Man, I did research to do a whole entire poem about dinosaurs standing in line for barbacoa. Because we got these dinosaur tracks that like in the ground. I'm like, you know what? You know why we have tracks? Because we're staying in line for the barbacoa. They sunk in. Understand? So I did all the research on these dinosaurs. Like I got all the names of the dinosaurs in there. That didn't make it. I did a poem about Ematanayuca, you know, and the pecan sheller strike, right? And there's a street called Nogalitos in San Antonio. The pecan shelling businesses were, and the pecan shellers. That didn't make it. I had a poem that I kind of already had that I wrote about the Paleta Man, because he's kind of like a local superhero, I think, right? Because he brings you joy, and all he asks for is $1. And that poem made it. The Paleta Man poem made it. So the Paleta Man is displayed on there on the window, right behind City Hall, around the middle of downtown. It started there in 2018. I'm convinced the city forgot it was there. They told me it was either for like April or May, and I'm okay with it because like, if you look it up on Google Maps, the poem is still, you can see it on the Google map. It's kind of fun.
That's funny.
We're gonna have to get the link for that for our show notes.
Yeah, you know, we bring on all sorts of guests, and this is no exception, right? And we started the show about, you know, it's not just about tacos, and if people, you know, when we tell them about the podcast, oh, it's about tacos. Well, it's much more than that. You know, it's the hidden ingredients, and words are important. They're very important. They're something that we take for granted almost on a daily basis, but it's essential. And, you know, sometimes we do that with tacos, especially here in Denver. And so I just think sometimes we have like, you know, like some great funny things on here, but it was very important to bring you on because there's just something magical about words. And when you gave us your poem, man, I also want to just real quick give us a quick story about when I first met you late last year. I flew down there with Jose. And when you picked us up and we went to this like a supermercado, right? I guess. And we got some tacos and
not a super, just mercado.
Just a mercado, okay. And that was a
Super
story.
La Mega.
Yeah, that was a story in itself, right? The Mexican Hitler. But one of the things that I remember is that you welcomed us into your home, and when those are the things that have changed that you don't see anymore. That when you welcome somebody to your home and it's you weren't expecting company, right? Yet it's like being at a relative's house. Like I felt so at home. And even though the tacos weren't that good, the tacos were made great by your company. And that's what people are missing today, right? I'm even an example of that where, you know, we just moved locations and people are just knocking at the door just to be solicitors, but no friends are coming, right? And nobody, you know, it's hard to welcome people into your house. So what you did that day was very special because, you know, it made us feel like, yeah, we're out of town, but we felt at home for a couple of hours. And I think that's what you bring to the show, man. You bring that to that passion, you bring it into the words you speak, and you know, we need more people like you on there.
Oh, thank you.
It's very, very true. We would like to invite questions or comments from listeners, from tuner inners. Hello, Lily.
Hello, you guys. I always love these conversations, and I have many thoughts. A few quick ones. But were you in a haiku competition? Was that? I think I heard you say.
Yeah, I was at the Southern Fried Poetry Slam, and
what a great name.
One of the events, and the Slam's a big competition. There were 24 different teams from around the country all competing. But one of the side events is what they call a haiku death match. And the haiku death match is like a head-to-head haiku competition. You're competing against another person, and you have to have different haiku, and it's called a death match because whoever loses has to sit down. They kind of die.
Yeah, those are challenging, aren't they? The haiku format.
Well, yeah. I mean, we learn in school like a haiku is a 17-syllable poem, 5 syllables, 7 syllables, another 5. But a modern haiku is just 17 syllables or less. So we can, and since it's performance poetry, so it's not just like clever words; it's also like how you're saying them. And the real challenge, I'll tell you, is that the last round, the final round of this, you had to have the best 9 out of 17. So you had to compete on. You had to have. I walked in there with 30 haiku because didn't know which ones I was going to use.
Okay, well, thanks for all the information, you guys. Great.
Thank you.
Rodrigo Bravo, welcome to the show.
Oh my God. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Now
I love Eddie. Eddie really does embody the spirit of San Antonio. I've been following Eddie on the periphery, but I've gotten to know Eddie, and it's really beautiful to see somebody represent la cultura de San Antonio to so many folks. You know what I'm saying? To invite y'all and to invite others and to see his words out there in City Hall. In the city of San Antonio. One important point that I wanted to make, Eddie is so spot on when it comes to how we fragment our experiences so often, right? But we're not willing to accept others' experiences. So, for example, right now, he said he represents or he envisions himself as a Tejano, right? I am from San Antonio. I feel like I rep San Antonio. I would never call myself a Tejano, even though I listen to Tejano music and I call myself a Chicano. But that's the thing. We can all coexist, even with these, different, identities and labels and this and that. And our experiences are very similar. And so when Eddie, for example, when he was at the Taco Fest and, and I was there to hang out with Eddie and Jose as well, he said he had a beautiful line in the Taco Fest debate where he explained how the tacos here, the breakfast tacos specifically, are made with eggs, right? Con huevos. And the eggs in Austin are made with all these different types of cuisines. So they're made con confusion. I thought that was such an excellent distinction between the two. And that's what it is. And I know San Antonio catches a lot of slack, and I'll end here. I know San Antonio catches a lot of slack because we're so defensive, but it's because sometimes really that's all we got. And so when we see other folks encroach on our breakfast tacos, when we see other folks try to claim our puffy tacos, when they try to take away our spurs, all this stuff, it's because, San Antonio, we're very proud of what we have, and we're a big, small town. We're one of the top, I think, 10 cities in the nation, population-wise. But Isidro, Jose, y'all been to San Antonio a few times. Eddie, I know you're from here. It's like a small town still. You literally can, drive from one side of town to the other. It has that small town feel. So there are some interesting dynamics there in San Antonio, but I think Eddie does a really good job capturing that those dynamics and that feel of what it is to be here in San Antonio and to deal with that whole dual culture of the whole mix of cultures that are here: Tejano, Chicano, Mexican, Latino, American, Tex-Mex, Texas, all that, Cowboys, all that other stuff. It's all wrapped up in one nice little place. So I really appreciate what Eddie is doing. Thank you so much, Eddie. And thank you all again, as always, for having a great show.
Thanks, Rodrigo.
I had to say before is that confusion line is not totally mine. I did modify it, but it belongs to Daniel Garcia Ordaz. He's a poet in the Valley. And when I told him I was doing this, he's the one that said, oh, you know what, that fusion just leads to confusion. And I'm like, oh, that's good. And I asked him for permission, and he said, yeah, you can take it. So, but I got to give him credit.
Hey, we're about to wrap it up, but there's one little thing that we want to talk. It's not so little. I might have to take a little bit of your limelight here, Eddie, but I want to talk about Jose as well. Over the weekend, look what he's wearing. Come on, shy boy. Look at that. James Beard Award.
A medal, yeah. Big props for that, man.
Congratulations, Jose.
I was in Louisville, and I was in my phone. I'm like, hey, one of my friends just got a James Beard Award. And there's a guy from New Orleans that I was talking, he's like, that's a pretty big deal. I'm like, yes, it is a pretty big deal.
Yeah, it was a surprise. I have to say, I'm still surprised, and I have my family to keep me in check. So I called my teenage son specifically, just called him to tell him the news. And he said, yeah, Mama told me. I said, what do you think? He goes, yeah, it's great. I'm totally not cool, man. And that's okay. But I asked a colleague of mine at Texas Monthly who won a Beard Award in 2006. I know what it means professionally, but what does it mean personally? Right? Is there any personal impact? And in the long run, she said, no. It's just nice. And it is just nice. I finally got to meet online friends from across the industry and get very trashed with them. Because it was a long weekend and I had planned to eat tacos a lot more than I did. Everything just went to shit when it came to my itinerary. But you know what Chicago is? Definitely a taco town. It's got a huge Mexican population. They've been there since Chicago was Chicago because of vaqueros and the railroad, and you can feel that presence. There's a sidewalk pulga, which in Mexico is called a tianguis, which is like a pop-up market. Yeah. And we drove through it. It was awesome. It was just a lot of fun. I love going to Chicago. I don't love its airport. It's way too big. And it confuses the hell out of me.
Yeah, because you like those small airports like DFW, right? I will say one last thing about airports, then we'll move on to close out the show. That's another thing that San Antonio, that I was very impressed with, that people take for granted. It's one of the largest cities in our country, right? And its airport is efficient and it's small and you know where to go. It reminds me of San Jose Airport, right? It's a very efficient operation that nobody really takes full appreciation of. So another good thing about San Antonio, go to their airport. Don't land in Austin.
And they've got, the other cool thing, they've got local artists that made some of those murals, that painted the doors and the elevator. One of my former students has a concha that's rising up like a sunrise.
Oh, that was your student? Oh, that's awesome, because I've been looking for that elevator.
Sanchez, yeah.
That's so cool. See? Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't teach her anything about art. She was in my classroom. I can't claim much so that she was in my classroom, but yeah, she's got amazing art over town. She also, incidentally, right on St. Mary's Street, right across from Burger Boy, there's a mural of 2 foil wrapped breakfast tacos and some salsa. And that's also hers.
Oh my God. I love that mural.
We got to get her on the show.
We do.
I'll give her her contact info.
Okay. Thank you. Well, as we wrap it up, Isidro's got a pearl of wisdom.
It's time for the TAQUOTE. And a TAQUOTE, if you're new to the show, it's a quote with a little bit of a taco twist to it. And we like to end the shows with a TAQUOTE to, help you have a better day. And today's TAQUOTE is, in the world of tacos, there has never been evidence of discrimination when it comes to yellow, white, blue, and or brown tortillas.
Bravo. Bravo.
Take that to the taqueria or the bank.
Well, where can people find you on social media?
Sure. My handle is El Tacolico, ELTACOLICO, like Tacoholic in Spanish. In all platforms, Instagram, Twitter. My Gmail is etacolico@gmail. If you want to play Scrabble against me, it's etacolico. Whatever. It's Ed Tacoligo everywhere. It's also my Cash App and my Venmo if you want to go there too.
Gotta
Drop him a dime, folks.
Yeah.
So, Isidro, where can we find you on social media?
My handle is at 10K Tacos. We also have a website that we're trying to develop, but send us messages there. Both Jose and I have, it's called Taco Podcast. See, we're so sorry, can't even, but it's tacopodcast.com. So Jose at tacopodcast.com or Isidro at tacopodcast.com. If you guys want to, if you know somebody or yourself, you guys want to come on the show, talk about tacos, talk about life, talk about things like this, please send us a note. We would love to hear about it. Or send us hate mail, like Jose loves hate mail.
Oh my God, it is the best. It really is the best.
Where can they find you?
At Taco Trail on all platforms. So follow all of us on social media. Next week, we'll have on Ali Khan, former host of Cheap Eats on the Cooking Channel. And he's got several video series on YouTube. He's got a podcast with Austin FC. That would be the local soccer club that was originally promised to San Antonio.
Ooh, that's going to get Rodrigo upset now.
Yeah, I'm laughing at myself. I'm so sorry. I hope everyone has a wonderful Taco Thursday. Thank you for tuning in. This has been 10,000 Tacos.
Thanks again, Eddie.
Hey, thanks for having me.
It is, in Spain, they celebrate Taco Thursday. I think that's
Taco Thursday.
Okay. Have a good day, everyone.